This is the New Blue Review with Benji Shulman.
Phumlani Majozi, he is our economic correspondent. We often go to him for things in the news that are economic related. Phumlani, he is a fellow at Africa for Liberty, and he joins us now. Phumlani, welcome to the show.
Benji, how are you?
I'm very, very well. And yourself, Phumlani. Thank you for joining us this morning. Some interesting news in the Sunday papers this week, talking about the ANC's plan for economic recovery. What kind of stuff are they talking about at the moment?
Well, this comes from Enoch Godongwana. As you know him, he is the head of economic transformation in the ANC. So Enoch Godongwana, he just made recommendations in the form of a document to his party, the African National Congress, where he basically proposes that the ANC should look into using the state to boost South Africa's economy as we sort of emerge out of the lockdown. So basically, he says that there's going to be a few things such as encouraging the use of pension funds as well as the central bank to finance infrastructure. He also talks about the creation of the state bank. I don't know why they want to create a state bank, given the fact that we have seen what happened in state-owned enterprises. So now they want to form a state bank. So it does make sense to me. They also speak about the national pharmaceutical company. So that those are basically what he's proposing. Says that the state should try and be at the center of boosting the economy through those measures. I'm not sure why do we have to go down the route that has failed many, many times over the past years. We have seen how our SOEs are failing. So now we are creating a bank. I mean, who's going to finance the failures of that bank, right? Because we know what happens in our country. We're using people's pension funds. That's quite risky as well. People work hard in their lives, and now you want to use those, put into trying to finance government programs. Again, that's not sustainable. So I mean, there's so much that's going on right now. That one wonders as to why would people like Enoch Godongwana, propose things that we have seen they've slowed down our economy over the past years. And I think it comes back to, it's all about ideology. I mean, right now, these guys have seen an opportunity to, this crisis have given them an opportunity to go along with their, their sort of statist ideology that they've always wanted to implement in our economy, and that won't look good down over the next years if what Enoch Godongwana is saying goes into effect. Was the ANC would deliberate on this thing. They tend to do that when their NEC comes, National Executive Committee. They will put this document into consideration, and it's definitely some of its factors. Some of its content will be sort of put into practice somewhere down the line.
Let's just talk a second here, Phumlani, about the issue of the pensions, because that's something I'm sure that many people who are listening to this might be wondering about. So basically, they call this prescribed assets, and in effect, what is it suggesting about the use of private pensions by the government?
Well, what it suggests is that we are seeing government still having sort of huge controls, that they can have their hand in that is quite discomforting. It also shows that the state or the government has run out of options. We have no money. Let's be frank about that. The country has no money. We are indebted. Our debt is rising up. It could approach 70% as a percentage of GDP quite soon. Our deficits are quite up. Some estimates show that with this COVID-19, we could go to 13% of our deficits. So it doesn't look good. And prescribed assets are the way for these guys, or for government, I should say, to get hold of, to try and be able to finance the programs that they want, because they don't have any of those options. And it's quite, my view is that I wish there were some sort of laws that could be put in place. I don't know by whom, because our leaders don't seem to believe in putting laws that are pro-growth. Our laws should be put in place so that such things like prescribe us and so on, government does not have a hand on those. You see, that you push them out, that you create a framework where politicians cannot put their hand in there, that it becomes an unconstitutional kind of a thing that one could put in place. Because right now we are sort of
what are they
on the wrong direction.
What are they intending to do with the prescribed assets? I mean, is it for SOEs? Are they putting into infrastructure projects? Where would they actually take people's pension money?
Well, mainly it's about infrastructure projects and also financing the SOEs as well. So all these are finance. These are sort of government. These are government financing kind of programs. So that's where they want to channel the whole thing. It's not repayments of debts. It's not repayments of the money we owe to the Chinese. It's basically for them to finance the programs that they believe will sort of benefit people on the ground. That's the objective here that they are trying to put through. And this doesn't look good because we know how corrupt our government is, and we do know what the risks are in the country. So, I mean, it's just disappointing the way I see it.
Yeah, certainly it is really, really disturbing because they were going to start with the state one, the state pensions, and now they're coming after the private one. Certainly something that we're going to have to watch very carefully. But what about this issue of a drug manufacturing company? We haven't seen this before. Has this been on the ANC's agenda before now?
This one is quite newish, by the way. The one I've heard many, many times is the State Bank. And remember, Tito Mboweni has been one of those people who have proposed or pushed for the idea of a state bank. The pharmaceutical company is quite a newish one in my ears that I'm hearing about now. It's quite interesting because obviously I think here, as usual, the idea is that you've got they want to create products in the pharmaceutical world that would be sort of to an extent financed by the state to lower the prices for the citizens. At least that's what is in their intention. But it's quite an interesting one because I've never really heard about it. And my view is that given the record of where we come from with respect to SOEs, it would be quite nothing unusual would come out of it. We would see the same sort of tensions and squabbles within it. We will see the same of every now and then, taxpayers having to bail it out, and so on and so on. So it's quite an interesting concept. I guess maybe COVID-19, the pandemic, was what sort of inspired them to think of a pharmaceutical national company, they call it. I guess they've seen an opportunity, as what I was saying, that for them, the crisis is an opportunity to implement what they want to achieve. And I guess they've seen that we don't even have a vaccine, by the way, yet for COVID-19. And we don't know when it's going to come through. So maybe they are thinking about that over the long term as to how do we sort of think from that point of view and also put in such a company, which is quite interesting, actually.
Phumlani Majozi, Senior Fellow at African Liberty, thank you so much for joining us on the New Blue Review.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Have a nice one.
There we go. Phumlani Majozi, he is the Senior Fellow at Liberty, Africa Liberty, and he just joined us today to talk about some of the ideas that have been going on in terms of the ANC's economic thinking.